Hey everybody, this is the syllabus tour video for History 132 B01. I am just taking some time to go over the syllabus with you all because, as you may have seen from our welcome announcement, we are going to dive right on in to course material on our first meeting on Wednesday. So just going over all the housekeeping stuff online to make sure that we're all ready to begin on Wednesday. Alright, so here's your syllabus for this course. This is History 132 B01, and there are no prerequisites. You do not have to have History 131 to take 132. The last day to drop this course without a grade penalty, that is the last day to drop this class with a WD and not a WF, is March 26th. So it's past the halfway point, and you will have a really good idea of where you stand in the class. Now, that being said, if you exceed absences, which we'll get to that exact amount later, I do have to drop you. But if you drop yourself, it's a WD. If I drop you for absences, it's a WF. So just be aware of that. Things about me. My office is in STEAM. It's in 124. My phone number's right there, 919-464-2460. My office hours are on Tuesday and Thursday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. I can also meet you by appointment. An email is the best way to get in touch with me. I check my email pretty regularly. You will get a response from me within 24 hours. And it's usually less than that, but I like to say 24 hours just to give myself a little bit of a buffer. I tend to check my email at least once in the morning and once in the evening. Now, evening means early evening. I usually don't check it past 6 p.m. unless there's a major assignment due. Maybe I'll check it until like 8 p.m., but it varies. I check my email very early in the morning, mostly because I have small children that don't know what sleep means or how wonderful it is. And so I tend to check my email pretty early in the morning as well. Like usually by 7 a.m. I've checked my email already, if not earlier. And then I'll check it again in the evening. Now, if I'm on campus and in my office, I'll check it more often than that. But you will always get a response with me from me within 24 hours. All right, so we are going from about the Civil War to about 2008. We're going to cover a lot of stuff. We are a blended course. That means that we will meet face-to-face every week, once a week on Wednesdays, and the rest of the class is going to be online. So you will watch lecture videos online, you'll submit exams online, you'll submit papers online, all that kind of stuff. That's online. You'll also have weekly attendance quizzes for online. They're very short. So we will meet every Wednesday in person at 12:30 in F103, which is in the Health Building. As far as things you'll be able to do when you are done, I'm not going to read every single one of these, but they are all important. You can read, though, so I'm going to trust you to read all of these. I'll hit some of the high notes. You're going to write argument-driven, evidence-based essays analyzing significant historical developments. You'll use MLA. The standard default for this class is MLA. You can use Chicago style if you would like to. It is footnotes. It's what historians use. I cannot require it. So you can use that if you want to explore that. I can help you explore that. But otherwise, MLA is what we'll be doing. We're going to use primary source documents. You have a whole book that's just primary source documents. We'll get to that in a minute and what exactly those are. You are going to practice critical thinking by creating evidence-based arguments and challenging arguments you are given. So critical thinking is a wonderful skill. We question what we are told. We do not just accept the information that we are given. We look at multiple sources and we figure out what really was going on. We're going to talk about the 3 C's: change, continuity, and contingency. Change, of course, things are different. Continuity, things remain the same. And contingency are moments of unpredictability and uncertainty in history. It's wonderful moments where the decisions of regular people like you and me change things forever. I mean, if certain people hadn't made certain decisions, I mean, everything will be different. It's kind of amazing when you really start to look at it. And those are some of the things we're going to talk about. And we are going to understand some of the economic, political, environmental, and cultural causes that together transformed life in North America. And we're going to witness the creation of a modern activist state and the expansion of state power across the continent and abroad. We're going to consider questions of race, class, gender, sexuality, region, ethnicity, and culture to evaluate the continuing struggles for equality and access in America. Books, books, books. You have 2 books. The first is your textbook. That is Eric Foner's Give Me Liberty in American History. It's the Volume 2, 5th edition. And that is, the USBN is right there. And that is a great book. It's written by Eric Foner. He's a scholar, so he's an historian. And he took a bunch of information and sources and wrote a textbook. So that's a secondary source because it's written by a scholar using historical materials. The second book is your document reader. It's Voices of Freedom, A Documentary History, Volume 2, 5th edition. The ISBN is again right there. That is called a primary document reader because it is full of primary documents. Primary documents, unlike the prime directive, are related to how they were written. And primary documents are written by people who actually lived through the events. So in our class, for example, we're going to read Booker T. Washington, and we're going to read Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and we're going to read Carrie Chapman Catt, and we're going to read Franklin Roosevelt, and we're going to read JFK and Martin Luther King, and all these people who lived through these things we're going to be talking about. We're going to be reading their firsthand accounts of what happened. And there will be some additional readings online, and there are instructions on how to access those in the Blackboard shell. We do not use an e-text in this class. So how do we explain the rise of a modern American nation? Between 1865 and the early 2000s, the United States emerged from shattered and divided disunion with weak claims to Western territories to become a diverse, powerful world empire. So we are going to try to answer a bunch of questions, including what does freedom mean? Who is an American? And what is the proper relationship between individuals and government? We're going to talk about struggles over the meaning of citizenship, the expanding power of government in American economy and daily life. We're talking about the changing relations of the individual with the community and the complications of national and international expansion. The course begins in the aftermath of the Civil War and ends in the days of globalization, each marking the end of an era and the beginning of another. So, I know you guys are like, whatever. What are the grades going to be like? Well, let me tell you. 20% of your grade is going to be participation. So it's going to be broken up between online and in class. What we're going to do is you're going to have attendance quizzes every week that you don't have an assignment to turn on in online. Like every week that you don't have a paper or an exam, you'll have an attendance quiz. Because it's a blended course, I have to have attendance marked for online and for our in-class meetings. So they're short. They're like 2 to 3 question. Basically, if you watch the lecture videos and read, you will be fine. And that's great. So that'll make up half of that 20% participation. The other half is going to come from being in class and being a part of discussions. We are going to be spending our meetings discussing the course materials, the documents, and sort of analyzing what was happening and just having conversations. So in order to get full credit for a day for doing that, you have to participate, so speak, make a point, answer a question. It has to be relevant to the class twice. You just have to do it twice. And that gets you a 100 in participation for that particular in-class meeting day. So that together with the attendance quizzes makes up the 20% of your grade. 40% of the grade is exams. There will be 3 exams. They're multiple choice, true, false, and identification. Identification is like a short answer. So you'll get some terms, you'll pick 2 of the terms, and you'll tell me who, what, when, where, and so what for those terms. And there is more information on this in Blackboard, and we'll go over it too before the exam. So never fear. You will have the tools you need to do well on that. And those exams are in February, March, and May. And you may be thinking, well, 40% for 3 exams, your math is off. Well, okay, so it's true, I'm bad at math, but this is actually on purpose. The first exam is only worth 10% of your grade, and that is because some of you may have never taken a history exam before, let alone a history course. You may have never done an identification question before. So all of these things can make people feel uncertain, even if you're really prepared, or it can just make it harder. You don't know what my testing style is, how I write questions, all that kind of stuff. So I have the first exam count just a little bit less to kind of give you a little bit of a recovery period if you don't do as well as you hope. And then exams 2 and 3, once you are familiar with the format after exam 1, the second 2 are each worth 15%. The remaining 40% of your grade is papers. You will write 2 3 to 5 page papers based on course readings. These are not research papers. Everything that you need to use will be given to you via reading assignments in this class. And each paper is worth 20%, which sounds like a lot, but writing, that whole critical thinking, writing and using evidence-based arguments, those are key components to history. So those grades are, those papers are really important. And I'm going to give you a lot of detailed feedback on paper 1, especially. You'll get feedback on paper 2, but really detailed feedback on paper 1, because the whole idea, especially if you're spending this much time on it, is to get better at it, right? So we're going to work on that too, make sure, because everybody, me included, we can all become better writers. So that's part of that as well. And those will be in February and April. The grade center. I don't know about you, but I was one of those people that was like, okay, I want this grade in this class. And then I've got like a calculator out. I'm like, okay, if I get this on this and I get this on this and I know what this grade is, then I can get the grade I want. I was always super into knowing what my grade was. And so on the flip side of that, I update Blackboard really, really regularly, and I try to turn grades around pretty quickly too, so that you all know exactly where you stand as soon as possible after turning in something. And each assignment has instructions. The primary focus for every assignment will be the quality of the content. So for a paper, for example, did you answer the prompt? Sometimes there are multiple questions in a prompt, so did you fully answer it? Did you support your answer or argument with the proper evidence from class readings? Again, evidence-based arguments, that's what history is all about. So formatting and mechanics are also important. They'll play a smaller role in the grading as well. And you can always ask me questions if you are not sure if you're following the instructions or on the correct path of a prompt. You can definitely let me know and we can talk about it, or we can sit down together, or you can email me an outline or something. So I'm available, so don't feel like you're totally on your own. And so I'll make every effort to return tests and papers within 2 weeks, and smaller assignments like the quizzes within 1 week. The quizzes will be probably just like a couple of days until it's like crazy paper time, in which case it may be more like a week. But I don't think I've gone more than like 3 or 4 days without turning those around, because again, they're really short. Tests and papers within 2 weeks, usually those are shorter too, but I like to say 2 weeks because it gives me a buffer just in case. And so again, turnaround is pretty quick, and comments and feedback will be directly on the papers in Blackboard, and the exams, you'll get a feedback section in there, and so you will know exactly why things are being marked the way that they are. And you will be able to ask me questions too after you read your feedback. I always say, once I post paper grades, wait until after you've read your feedback before you contact me. And then if you read your feedback and you have a question, absolutely let me know. Late work happens, doesn't it? So I have a late work policy because late work happens. So you cannot make up participation, obviously, because you were either there or you were not. Now, if you have a doctor's note, or like your kid had to go to the hospital, or you had to go to the hospital, or a relative died or something, and you have documentation of some sort, I can exempt or excuse the participation grade for you not being there if it was something like that. You'll still get the absence, but I can exempt the grade that goes with that at least. Now, exams, same rule. They cannot be made up without a documented excuse. You will get the opportunity to take it if you have a documented excuse. Otherwise, you cannot take a test late. It closes after it's due. It closes. It's gone. You can't do it. And papers must be turned in on time. And then once they're late, they're 3 points off every day. So that's not class day. That's every single day, including weekends, that they are late 3 points. And then after 2 weeks, I don't accept anything late. So, and really, you don't want to wait that long to turn a paper in because, 14 times 3, that's hard to come back from. So my recommendation would be to turn all work in on time. And let's see, we have a 10-point scale for grades, like, I'm sure most of your classes do. And then things you will want to do in order to be successful. Check your email. I just told you how often I check my email. You want to check your email. So be sure that you are checking your email regularly. For example, if your paper doesn't submit properly and I email you saying, hi, can you please resubmit your paper by this day in order to get credit, in order for me to grade it? And if you don't check your email, then you don't submit your paper by that day, and then you get a 0 on 20% of your grade. So checking your email is very, very important. We are going to go pretty quickly in here. You will need to be able to keep up with the reading assignments. Now, as you'll see in the Blackboard tour video, or if you watch that first, then you've seen it already, there is a reading assignment, a reading breakdown, which has every single reading for the entire semester. So every week has reading assignments. It's all in there. Major due dates are in there too. So I do not want an email that says, what are we reading for this week? Because I've given it to you. So take a look at that document because it's got all of that is there for you. So you can even, if you know you're going to be traveling, you can look and see, okay, what am I expected to read? Okay, I can read that and take notes on it so I'm ready to go. And that way when I go out of town, if you can't take your books for whatever reason, then you're fine. So there is no reason not to be prepared for class. We're going to use Blackboard. So while you're watching the lectures, there are lecture outlines that are provided. I have students who like to print those out, put extra spaces between the key terms, and write in all of the things from lecture as I'm talking. Then the other option is that I also post my lecture notes, which is basically the script I use, my own notes that I lecture from. You can also print those out. I've had students print those out and highlight those and write on them. So that works too, but there are tools there to help you digest the material and prepare for things like papers and tests. So they are there for you to use if you choose to do that. Participation is a huge element. Like I said, on Wednesdays we wear pink. No, on Wednesdays we are going to have discussion. So if you are not participating, if I am in a room full of 20 people and 2 people are talking to me, that is definitely, I appreciate those 2 people for sure, but that is definitely not going to have as good of a conversation in that room as if 15 of you are speaking, right? So please come prepared because I really, 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 really want to have a good conversation. We're going to be talking about all kinds of hot issues, which is where the next part comes in. Disagreement is an important part of intellectual discussion, and arguing out issues is critical to a college education. So we can disagree. It's perfectly fine. Your disagreements need to be based in evidence, and they need to be respectful. So, and we're also going to use respectful language to refer to groups, individuals, and fellow students. You will hear me quote people from the past. The people from the past use inappropriate language. You will hear me quote them. I will always say that I'm quoting them, right? We don't use those words when we have a conversation. Okay, so just keep that in mind. We will use respectful language to refer to groups. We're going to talk about race. We're going to talk about class. We're going to talk about gender. All kinds of stuff that's really, really lively in terms of the way people debate and talk about these things. So your disagreements can be excellent. They can be wonderful, constructive disagreements. They need to be based in evidence, and they need to be respectful. Okay? All right, so if you have any questions, please contact me. I have office hours pretty much right after our class on Wednesdays, right? So, you can either walk back to me or walk back with me to my office to chat, or you can email me to set up an appointment. Or if you don't come to campus except for our class and you have a crazy schedule, we could do like a Skype or a Zoom meeting so we can have a video call, or you can call me at my office, But anyway, the bottom line is I am available. So if you need to reach out to me, please do, and we can make that happen. All right, no electronic devices in the class. Now, if you have an accessibility issue and you need a laptop or with a screen reader or something like that, or a recorder, I need the documentation for that. And once I have that, you are all set to use that, no problem at all. Otherwise, do not use these things, laptops, cell phones, all that stuff. I don't know why it still says Blackberries. It's not 2005. Don't use that stuff in class. Because again, participation is 20% of your grade. And if you're on your phone, I'm going to make a note of that. And then that's going to be a problem for your participation grade. So since we are blended, we have two components to attendance. I just talked about that a little bit ago. Half of your attendance is online. Half of it is our weekly meetings. Okay, so you'll have the online attendance quiz. You will have the in-class meetings. You got to show up to those. So the census date for this class is January 17th. So you need to complete the enrollment verification quiz by January 17th in order to stay in the class because it has an online portion. So this means that attendance is calculated in two ways. So it's good, but it's also bad because it depends on how attentive you are, right? So there's upsides and downsides to this kind of thing. You need to take the online attendance quiz, and then you need to show up for class because you only get to miss 2 weeks. That's 4 absences. You only get 4 absences. So if you miss the online attendance quiz and then don't come to class that day, that's already 2 absences. You've already missed a week. So just be careful and keep track of what you're doing. Hopefully everyone comes to every class, but I know that life happens to us all, and that is not something that is realistic for everyone. So just really keep track of both your online and your in-class absences. Religious or solemn observance. So if you have a religious or solemn observance that you need to miss class for, there's a form for that. You just need to get it to me 2 weeks in advance. You will not have a problem when it comes to making it work or missing things. We will take care of all that. So there's a form for that. Just remember to get it to me at least 2 weeks prior to the date of the absence. We have a faculty first policy here at JCC, and that means I like to call it the We Are All Adults policy. So because about half our class is online, you'll get announcements from me that are typed up. You'll get feedback from me that is typed up. And I will be the first to admit, I have a very dry sense of humor, and I can be a little sarcastic sometimes. And that does not translate very well often to the printed word. So if I send out an announcement and I try to make a joke and it just doesn't work out, and it may be something that it might be upsetting to someone because I meant it one way and the tone totally was not conveyed and it was taken a totally different way, please let me know, and I will gladly apologize if I'm in the wrong, and we can talk through whatever the miscommunication was and figure it out. So hopefully that won't happen. But if it does, please let me know. And same thing, with you guys. If, let's say we're having a conversation and someone says something that comes off totally wrong, or we have a discussion board online and someone makes a comment that, again, because of the text and the printed word in that case, it may just be conveyed in a different tone than what it was meant in, I will contact that person and I will say, hey, when you said this, it came off this way, and blah, 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 and we'll resolve the issue. Because, again, we are all adults, and adults talk to each other. So that communication thing, that's a two-way deal. So please feel free to reach out if you need to or want to. And if you feel that you need to take an issue higher, there's a chart here for folks you can reach out to. Hopefully that is not the case. Hopefully everything will be all cool. Because again, just, if you feel like anything's going on, just talk to me, and I am absolutely here for that. So that's the syllabus in kind of a nutshell, not so much, right? It took a little bit. But anyway, If you have any questions about this, please feel free to email me, or you can ask me when we see each other for the very first time on Wednesday. And make sure you've watched, well, if you're listening to me, you've watched this, but make sure you also watch the Blackboard tour video so you know where everything is, including that reading breakdown document that I mentioned. That is like going to be your compass for the class. So please make sure that you watch that video and find that. And I will see you all on Wednesday.